I collapsed at my daughter's birthday party. That's where this ends. But let me tell you where it starts, because you need to understand something. You need to understand how easy it is to disappear while everyone's still looking at you. I'm not going to tell you my name. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm tired, so tired. And I've been afraid for so long that fear just feels normal now, like breathing, like blinking. You don't even notice it anymore. I'm talking to you right now because I need you to hear this. Not a doctor, not a specialist, you, because maybe you're feeling something too. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you've been told it's nothing. Maybe you're starting to wonder if you're losing your mind. Before everything fell apart, I was fine. I mean, I thought I was fine. Isn't that what we all think? I worked in marketing, mid-level position at a tech startup. You know the type. Ping pong tables, beer on tap, everyone pretending we're changing the world while we optimize click-through rates. The hours were brutal, but I told myself I was lucky, grateful. So many people would kill for this job. I had a husband, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs with a mortgage that made me wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes. But we were managing. We were always managing. That's what adults do, right? We manage. My friends called me the responsible one, the one who had her life together. I was the person who remembered birthdays, who organized the group dinners, who sent the funny memes in the group chat to keep everyone connected. I was good at being needed. I handled stress the way everyone does. Coffee, wine, yoga on Sundays when I could drag myself out of bed, deep breaths in the car before walking into the office, a smile that I'd practiced so many times it didn't even feel fake anymore. I was fine. God, I really believe that. It started small, so small, a headache that wouldn't quite go away, the kind that sits behind your eyes like a low hum, annoying but not debilitating. I'd had headaches before. Everyone has headaches. Then the fatigue. But I was tired anyway, right? Working 50-hour weeks, managing 2 kids' schedules, trying to keep the house from descending into complete chaos. Of course I was tired. Who wouldn't be? My hands started trembling sometimes, just a little. I'd be holding my coffee cup and notice it shaking, the surface of the liquid rippling in tiny circles. I'd set it down, flex my fingers, tell myself I needed to cut back on caffeine. Brain fog, that's what they call it, right? When you walk into a room and forget why you're there. When someone's talking to you and their words just slide right past your ears like water. When you read the same email 3 times and still don't know what it says. I thought I was just getting older. 36 isn't old, but it's not young either. Maybe this was just what happened. Maybe everyone felt this way, and I was just now noticing. The vertigo started on a Tuesday. I remember because I was in a meeting, and suddenly the room tilted, just for a second, like being on a boat in choppy water. I gripped the edge of the conference table, blinked hard, and it passed. It happened again the next day, and the day after that, but it was manageable. Everything was manageable. I went to the doctor on a Thursday afternoon. I'd put it off for 3 weeks because who has time for doctor's appointments? But my husband had been nagging me, and the vertigo was getting worse, and I thought, fine, I'll go. They'll run some tests. They'll find something simple, low iron maybe, vitamin deficiency. They'll give me a prescription, and I'll be fine. Dr. Morrison was nice, young, probably just a few years out of medical school. She listened while I listed my symptoms, nodding, typing notes into her computer. "How's your stress level?" she asked. I laughed, actually laughed. I mean, it's there. Work is crazy. Kids are crazy. Life is crazy. But it's always been like that. More typing. "And how are you sleeping?" "Not great," I admitted, "but that's normal for me." She examined me, blood pressure, heart rate, looked in my eyes with that little light, pressed on my abdomen, asked me to follow her finger with my eyes. "Everything looks normal," she said, rolling her chair back. "I think you're dealing with stress and exhaustion. Your body is telling you to slow down." I felt relief flood through me. "See, nothing serious, just stress." "I know it feels real," she continued, her voice gentle, kind even, "these physical symptoms, but anxiety can manifest in really powerful ways. Our bodies hold tension. Have you considered therapy? Maybe some meditation?" She prescribed me a low dose of anti-anxiety medication, told me to take some time off work if I could, get more sleep, exercise, eat better, standard stuff. The same advice everyone gets. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. Here's the thing about wanting something to be true. It makes you blind. I took the medication. I tried to sleep more. I downloaded a meditation app and listened to some British woman tell me to breathe into my belly while I sat in my parked car outside Target. The symptoms continued, but I told myself it would take time. Bodies don't heal overnight. I just needed to be patient. I just needed to manage my stress better. My husband was supportive. "The doctor said it's anxiety, right? Maybe you should take that week off. Go visit your sister. Just relax." My mother called it a wake-up call. "You've been pushing yourself too hard for years. Your body is finally making you listen." My best friend sent me articles about burnout, about the mental load women carry, about how we're all drowning but pretending to swim. Everyone had an explanation. Everyone was so sure, and I wanted them to be right. 3 months later, I was worse. The headaches were constant now, a vice grip around my skull that never fully released. Some days, it was a dull ache. Other days, it was so sharp I had to close my eyes and breathe through it. The vertigo was happening multiple times a day. I'd be walking down the hallway at work, and suddenly the floor would lurch beneath me. I'd grab the wall, wait for it to pass, force a smile when a coworker asked if I was okay. I started having these episodes where my vision would blur. Not completely, just soft around the edges, like looking through a fogged window. It would last a few minutes, then clear. My concentration was shot. I'd be in the middle of a task and completely lose track of what I was doing. I started making mistakes at work, missing deadlines, forgetting meetings. I went back to Dr. Morrison. "The medication isn't helping?" she asked, frowning at her screen. "No, and the symptoms are worse." What does worse mean to you? What does worse mean to me? Like I was being dramatic, like I was exaggerating. More frequent, more intense. I can barely function. She ran some blood tests, thyroid, vitamin levels. Everything came back normal. "I think we should increase your anxiety medication," she said. "And have you tried therapy yet? I really think that would help." "This isn't anxiety," I said, and I heard the edge in my own voice. "Something is wrong." "I understand this is frustrating," she said, in that calm, professional tone. "But all your tests are normal. Sometimes our bodies react to stress in ways that feel very real, very physical. That doesn't make it less valid, but it does mean the solution might be more about managing stress than treating a physical illness. She was so confident, so sure, and I started to wonder if she was right, if maybe I was just falling apart, if maybe this was all in my head. I saw 2 more doctors over the next 4 months. The first one barely looked at me, spent most of the appointment typing, told me it was probably perimenopause, and handed me a pamphlet. The second one was more thorough, ran more tests, all normal, suggested I might be experiencing conversion disorder, where psychological stress converts into physical symptoms. It's not that you're making it up, he explained. Your brain is creating real symptoms, but the root cause is psychological. So I'm crazy. No, not crazy, just stressed, overwhelmed. Your brain is trying to protect you by forcing you to stop. Everyone kept using that word, stress, like it was some magic explanation that covered everything, like my entire existence could be boiled down to one simple diagnosis. You're stressed. You need to relax. Have you tried yoga? Have you tried meditation? Have you tried just not being stressed? I started to feel like I was screaming in a soundproof room. Everyone could see my mouth moving, but no one could hear me. The gaslighting was subtle. That's the worst part. No one was cruel. No one was dismissive in an obvious way. Everyone was so kind, so understanding, so concerned about my mental health. But the message was clear. This is in your head. You're overreacting. You're anxious. You're not sick. You're stressed. And I started to believe them. I started to question every symptom. Was that headache real? Or was I imagining it? Was I actually dizzy or just anxious about being dizzy? Was my vision really blurring, or was I looking for problems? I'd lie in bed at night cataloging every sensation in my body, trying to determine what was real and what was manufactured by my mind. Like I was a detective investigating myself. My husband started looking at me differently, with concern, yes, but also with something else, frustration maybe, or doubt, like he wasn't sure what to believe anymore either. Maybe you should increase your therapy sessions, he suggested one night. Gentle, careful. I've been going twice a week. Well, maybe it needs more time to work. I'm not making this up. I know, babe, I know, but all the doctors say, I know what the doctors say. We stopped talking about it after a while. The elephant in the room grew so big we could barely move around it. Work was falling apart. I called in sick more and more often. When I was there, I was a ghost, going through the motions, smiling when required, producing work that was barely acceptable. My boss pulled me aside one day. Is everything okay? You seem off lately. I'm dealing with some health issues. Have you seen a doctor? Several. And? What was I supposed to say? That multiple doctors had told me there was nothing wrong. That would make me sound delusional. That would make me sound weak. I'm working on it, she gave me that look. The one everyone was giving me now. Sympathetic, but skeptical. Concerned, but confused. Take care of yourself, she said, and let me know if you need anything. But what I needed was for someone to believe me. What I needed was for someone to take me seriously. What I needed was for this to have a name, an explanation, something concrete I could point to and say, see, I'm not crazy. It's real. But all I had was stress, just stress. My daughter's 7th birthday party was on a Saturday in October. We'd planned it for weeks. Bouncy castle in the backyard, pizza, cake shaped like a unicorn, 20 screaming kids hopped up on sugar and excitement. I'd been feeling worse all week. The headaches were relentless. The vertigo was so bad I was walking into walls. My vision would blur and clear, like a camera trying to focus, but I couldn't cancel. It was her birthday. She'd been talking about this party for months, so I smiled. I served pizza, I cut cake, I supervised the bouncy castle. And then the world tilted. Not the gentle tilt I'd gotten used to. This was violent, sudden. The ground lurched beneath me, and the sky spun, and I felt my legs give out. I remember falling. I remember hitting the grass. I remember the screaming. Mine or someone else's, I couldn't tell. Then nothing. I woke up in the hospital. My husband was there, his face pale and tight. A nurse was checking my vitals. The fluorescent lights were too bright, stabbing into my skull. What happened? My voice sounded strange, slurred. You collapsed, my husband said. You were unconscious for almost 3 minutes. We called an ambulance. The ER doctor was different from the others, older, serious. He didn't smile and tell me everything would be fine. He asked pointed questions, examined me carefully, ordered a CT scan, an MRI, more blood work. We're going to figure out what's going on, he said. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something. Not quite hope, more like validation. Someone was finally looking. The neurologist came in the next morning. She was a small woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that didn't miss anything. She sat down next to my bed with a tablet showing my scans. I need to talk to you about your results, she said. My heart hammered. I could hear it in my ears, feel it in my throat. We found a mass in your brain. It's been pressing on several critical areas, which explains your symptoms, the headaches, the vertigo, the vision problems, all of it. The room was very quiet. I could hear the machines beeping, someone laughing in the hallway, my own breathing, too fast, too shallow. A mass, I repeated. The words felt foreign in my mouth. A tumor. We'll need to do more tests to determine if it's benign or malignant. But regardless, it needs to come out. Surgery is scheduled for Wednesday. Surgery. Wednesday. Tumor. The words floated around me like debris in water. How long has it been there? I asked. My voice sounded small, far away. Based on the size and your symptoms, I'd estimate at least a year, maybe longer. A year. A year of being told it was stress. A year of being told it was anxiety. A year of being told it was all in my head. And it was in my head. Just not the way they meant. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, numb, while the neurologist explained the procedure, the risks, the recovery time. Her voice was steady, professional, kind even, but I barely heard her. All I could think was, I knew something was wrong. I knew it, and no one believed me. After she left, I sat alone in that hospital room and felt something crack open inside me. Not relief, not even fear, something darker, something that tasted like rage. How many appointments had I attended? How many times had I been patted on the head and told to meditate? How many doctors had looked at my test results and decided that because the numbers were normal, I must be imagining things? How many times had I doubted myself, questioned my own reality, apologized for taking up time and space? How many times had I been told that the problem was me, my stress, my anxiety, my inability to cope, when the problem was growing inside my skull the entire time? I thought about all the moments I'd swallowed my symptoms, downplayed them, made myself smaller so I wouldn't be a burden, smiled through the pain because I didn't want to seem dramatic. I thought about the nights I'd lain awake wondering if I was losing my mind, if everyone else was right and I was wrong, if I was the problem. The gaslighting hadn't come from one person. It had come from a system, a culture, a collective shrug that said, women are anxious, women are stressed, women imagine things. And I'd internalized it. I gaslit myself. When my husband came back, I told him. He cried. I didn't. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. You believed the doctors. I should have believed you. But would it have mattered? If he'd believed me, would anything have changed? The doctors still would have run the same tests. The tumor still would have been invisible to them until it wasn't. The system was designed to overlook people like me, to reduce our pain to psychology, to explain away the inconvenient truth that sometimes things are wrong even when the standard tests say they're right. The surgery was terrifying. They shaved part of my head, marked my skull with a surgical pen, explained that they'd be cutting into my brain, to remove a mass the size of a golf ball, growing in my head, pressing on the parts of me that made me function. And everyone had thought it was stress. I signed the consent forms with shaking hands, kissed my kids goodbye, watched my husband try to keep it together for them. You're going to be fine, he said, but his eyes were wet. Yeah, I said, because what else was there to say? I don't remember the surgery, obviously, but I remember waking up. The pain was extraordinary, not just in my head, everywhere, like my entire body had been through a war. But I was alive. The tumor was out. Benign, they told me. Not cancer. Just a growth that had decided to take up residence in my brain and slowly destroy my life. You're lucky, the neurologist said. If you'd waited much longer, the damage might have been permanent. Lucky. I'd spent a year being dismissed, and I was lucky. Recovery was brutal. They don't tell you that brain surgery breaks you in ways that go beyond the physical, that having someone cut into your skull and rearrange the most intimate parts of you leaves scars that don't show on imaging. I couldn't walk properly for weeks. My balance was shot. I had to relearn how to do basic tasks, how to shower without falling, how to dress myself, how to speak without slurring my words. The headaches continued. Different now, but still there. Phantom pains from a battle my body was still fighting. I was exhausted all the time, not the kind of tired you fix with sleep, the kind that lives in your bones, that makes you understand why people talk about having limited spoons for the day. And through it all, I kept thinking, they told me it was stress. They told me it was anxiety. They told me to try yoga. The recovery wasn't linear. Some days I felt almost normal. Other days I couldn't get out of bed. I'd wake up and the room would spin and I'd panic. Is it back? Has it grown back? Am I dying again? The neurologist assured me this was normal. The brain takes time to heal, months, not weeks, maybe a year or more before I'd feel like myself again, if I ever felt like myself again. Because who was I now? The woman who'd survived, the woman who'd been dismissed, the woman who'd learned that her instincts about her own body couldn't be trusted because everyone else knew better. I'd been fundamentally changed, and not just by the tumor. I started thinking a lot about what had happened, about the system that had failed me. How many women had sat in those same offices, listing those same symptoms, being told it was stress? How many had been sent home with prescriptions for anxiety medication when what they needed was imaging? I thought about the confidence in those doctors' voices, the certainty, the way they'd looked at me with kind eyes and told me my pain was psychological. I thought about how easily I'd been categorized: mid-30s woman, working mother, stressed, anxious. Of course she has headaches. Of course she's tired. Of course she's dizzy. She's overwhelmed. The diagnosis had been made before I'd even finished listing my symptoms, and I thought about how I'd internalized it, how I'd started to police my own pain, to question every sensation, to wonder if I was making mountains out of molehills. That's what gaslighting does. It makes you doubt the most fundamental thing you possess, your own experience of reality. Physical therapy helped my body heal, but my mind was a different story. I was angry, so angry, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was angry at the doctors who dismissed me, at the system that had taught them to see anxiety instead of illness, at myself for believing them. I was angry at how easily I'd been reduced to a stereotype, at how my pain had been gendered and diminished, at how many times I'd had to fight just to be taken seriously. I was angry that I'd lost a year of my life to a tumor that should have been found months earlier, that I'd spent that year thinking I was losing my mind when I was actually losing pieces of my brain to compression. But more than that, I was sad. Sad for the version of me who'd sat in those doctors' offices wanting so badly to be believed. Sad for all the women who'd come before me and all the women who'd come after, fighting the same fight. Sad for the trust I'd lost in the medical system, in other people, in myself. I'm doing better now, physically at least. The headaches are manageable. The vertigo is mostly gone. My vision is clear. I can walk without holding onto walls. But I'm different. How could I not be? I'm more careful now, more skeptical. When someone tells me something about my own body, I listen, but I also trust myself. I don't dismiss my instincts anymore. I'm also more aware of how many times women are told their pain isn't real, how often we're categorized as anxious, hysterical, dramatic, how easy it is to be overlooked when you don't fit the expected narrative. I think about that a lot, about narratives, about how we're all walking around with stories about ourselves and how easily those stories can be rewritten by people who think they know better. Sometimes people ask me if I'm glad I know now, if having an answer was worth it. What a strange question. Would I rather have lived with the uncertainty? Would I rather have continued thinking I was losing my mind? Would I rather have avoided the surgery and let the tumor keep growing until it killed me? Of course I'm glad I know. Of course I'm glad it's out. But I'm not glad it took a collapse at my daughter's birthday party for someone to look hard enough to find it. I'm not glad I spent a year being gaslit by medical professionals who were supposed to help me. I'm not glad I learned that my pain was considered less valid because of who I am and how I presented. Knowledge came at a cost, and I'm still paying it. Here's what I want you to know. Whoever you are, wherever you are, if something feels wrong, it probably is. Not always in the way you think, not always in the way you fear, but your body knows things your mind can't articulate. Your instincts exist for a reason. And if someone tells you it's just stress, just anxiety, just your imagination, get a second opinion, then a third, then a fourth if you need to. Don't let anyone convince you that your pain isn't real. Don't let anyone make you smaller. Don't apologize for taking up space in a doctor's office or for insisting on answers. You know your body better than anyone else ever will. I didn't believe that before. I do now. I still have bad days, days when the fear creeps back in. When I feel a twinge in my head and think, it's back, it's growing again, it's going to kill me this time. Days when I'm so tired, I can barely move, and I wonder if this is how it's always going to be, if I'll ever feel normal again, if normal is even possible anymore. Days when I'm so angry I could scream, at the doctors, at the system, at myself for not fighting harder, sooner. But I also have good days, days when I wake up without pain, when I can think clearly, when I can laugh with my kids and feel present in my own life, days when I look in the mirror and see a scar on my scalp and think, I survived. I survived when they told me there was nothing wrong. I survived when my own body was trying to kill me. I survived. That has to mean something. I forgive myself now for doubting, for believing them. For all the times I made myself small, I was doing the best I could with what I knew. We all are, but I won't make that mistake again. I won't let anyone convince me that I'm imagining things, that my pain is inconvenient or dramatic or psychological. I know now what it costs to be silent, to be polite, to be the good patient who doesn't make waves. It almost cost me everything. So this is my confession, my truth, my story. I was sick and I was ignored. I was in pain and I was dismissed. I was dying and I was told to meditate. And when they finally found it, when they finally looked hard enough to see what I'd been screaming about for a year, it was almost too late. I'm one of the lucky ones. I survived. Others don't. I'm telling you this because maybe you need to hear it. Maybe you're in that doctor's office right now, being told it's just stress. Maybe you're lying in bed wondering if you're losing your mind. Maybe you're starting to doubt yourself. Don't. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. Believe yourself. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be believed. You deserve to survive. And if the system fails you, and it might, it probably will, don't stop fighting. Don't make yourself smaller. Don't apologize for existing. Your life is worth more than their convenience. Your pain is real. You are real. And you deserve better. This is my personal story. Always seek advice from qualified medical professionals.